All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Build Show podcast. That's right, my weekly time to get together with you guys and go deep. Now, we're back on the Origin series. I've had some of my builder friends in today, and I've got one of my old builder buddies, not old, my young builder buddy, in the studio today, a friend named Brian Long. If you know that name, you've probably seen Brian on some of my videos. He's done some really cool projects over the years, and he's been really good at inviting me out to see some cool stuff. And in fact, he was telling me about something super cool that he's got going on in Austin. So stay tuned for some future videos with Brian. But we're gonna dig into Brian's past, how he got into his position. You know, my thought is that younger builder who's listening, it's really good for you to hear older builders, wiser builders, people that have been around the block and made mistakes, to hear what they did really well and maybe what they would do differently next time around in their story, in their journey. So we're gonna be digging in with Brian here on his background, where he came from, and how he got to where he is today. With that being said, from the Build Studios in Austin, Texas, let's get going. Hey guys, before we jump into the Brian Long, I want to say a big thanks to Build Show sponsor, Huber Engineered Woods. You know, these guys are going on over a decade of sponsoring the Build Show. I just had a really fun anniversary. I got a notification on YouTube that I've been on YouTube for 17 years. And you know, we launched our website, thebuildshow.com, in 2019. So it's funny, I feel like I've been making videos just for 2 or 3 or 5 years, but it's been now 17 years since I kind of stumbled upon this idea of sharing wisdom. And I'm trying to think, when Huber jumped on board to sponsor and to help us make this content, it's been at least probably a dozen years ago. They are just an absolutely incredible company. And I can't imagine you don't know their products already. We talk about the zip system sheathing a lot around here. I use that on my own house. We also talk about Advantech, which is their Super Bomber subfloor product. I started using that in 2006 after I had a problem with swelling plywood in 2005 on an 1.1 plywood job. So we just have a really, really long history with their fabulous products, and they're really good people. So big thanks to Huber for sponsoring today's podcast. Let's jump in with Brian Long. Brian, thanks for coming to the studio today, brother. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, Matt.
So Brian, in this series, I've been asking builders, like, walk us back. How did the Brian Long that I know today, this handsome 35-year-old in front of me today, who's been in business...
62-year-old, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for the compliment.
You've actually been in business for 30 or 40?
46 years.
Oh my gosh, dude. You've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
I want you to actually walk us back to, let's say, your high school days. Where'd you grow up? What got you started thinking about construction as a possible career? And walk me through some of those critical decades of life and some of the milestones that brought you to where you are today.
Well, my grandfather got me into it. Woodworking. He was a master carpenter, could build just about anything. And then we had uncles that were in the business. It's always been family kind of, you learn from family, Unfortunately, my grandfather died at a young age, I carried on working in woodworking and became a master carpenter, cabinet maker, woodwright, millwright.
And where were you living at that time? Were you in
Western
Texas then?
Pennsylvania?
Okay, you were in Western.
Yeah. And because you're from Western Pennsylvania as well, we had great shop in all our high schools.
My high school had an awesome shop class.
Yeah, and so I loved it, enjoyed it. I was actually going to become an architectural engineer. I was playing football. I was in the top 5% in the country academically.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, except that both sides decided they were going to play the scholarship game, and I ended up suing Pitt University and won a big chunk of cash from them. And
dang.
That's what started my first business.
Okay.
So I graduated when I was 16.
Goodness gracious.
I graduated with 34 and a half credits. You only need 19 to graduate.
Wow.
I was taking college prep classes and all that. It's because Pennsylvania had a very accelerated, you could take college classes while in high school.
And were you taking drafting classes in high school too?
Yes.
I had that as well.
Yeah, I loved that.
I was not good at it, but I was thankful I had it.
I loved it for the artwork because you could do diminishing pictures, diminishing paintings and stuff like that. So I always enjoyed that part. But woodworking was always my thing, and I loved building cabinets. So with that money, I started my first cabinet company in Dallas.
Awesome.
And
What brought you from Pennsylvania to Dallas, though? What was that? That's a big trip.
yeah, it was family issues. I had a stepfather that I didn't enjoy. And so he taught me a lot and taught me many, many things. But one thing he did teach me is not how to not be a human being. So I wanted to be a good person and be away from that. And so I moved in with my father in Dallas. And come to find out, we didn't get along so well either.
Oh, no.
But we made up after a few years. But for those couple of years, it was really tough going.
Yeah.
I was out on my own. I actually had somebody lied for me so I could get an apartment.
Oh, my gosh. Because
Yeah.
you were below.
16.
You were 16.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
So it was a matter of life or death.
Seriously.
You got to work.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact, my first ex-wife even said, she goes, I learned my work ethic from you.
Wow.
Because I was working 50, 60 hours a week every week. I just put my head down and got after it.
You know, as a 16-year-old, you can do a lot easier than you can at our age.
I can't even imagine the days
Yeah,
I used to pull, from 6 till midnight.
I have a buddy of mine, Travis Brungart, we were talking to today, and he's doing like a quick remodel on a house that he's about to move into, and he's working nights and weekends, and is up till midnight, and he's my age. He's probably mid-50s, low 50s. And I was like, man, I don't think I could do it anymore. Like, working till midnight on a woodworking project, installing trim, making cabinets, and then getting up and going to your day job. That ain't happening for me at this age.
I don't have the knees for trim work anymore.
Yeah,
So
that too.
I can do all the casing and I can set the doors and do all that, but I'm not going to get on my knees doing baseboard anymore.
Yeah, me too. So how many years did you work in Dallas in that cabinet industry?
By the
business?
time I built my first house in Dallas, I had 5 cabinet companies going at the same time.
Oh my gosh, Brian, you were the epitome of the young entrepreneur carpenter, weren't you?
Yeah, I was making over $1.5 million a year.
Oh my
cabinet
gosh,
companies.
That's crazy.
I was buying more sheet goods from Texmar, doing a lot of laminate
That's
work.
wild. This was 80s or?
Yeah, that was late 70s, early 80s.
Okay, gotcha.
And then my cabinet companies, nothing has made me more money than cabinets.
That's
the markup
wild.
on cabinets is like 400%.
Wow.
It's a huge markup
Yeah,
on
it is.
cabinets. And then I started doing like the Apparel Mart and the World Trade Center, doing all these showrooms. And that was just, you work with designers. We were building round tables and say, okay, that round table laminated would be $75. Oh no, that's $150.
Oh my gosh.
So they were like doubling my money without even, it was just, that's what they insist on because they were making the markup on the product.
Right.
So they said, I can sell this for $150 all day long.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so it was just a tumble effect, But I had an attorney that we were doing all of his offices, and I don't know if I should say his name or not, but he's a very prominent.
We can hold off on his name.
Yeah,
That's okay.
very, very, very prominent attorney, and we did 7 of his offices. For
the
each one,
cabinetry.
all of his associates wanted it, and so they started like throwing money at, okay, I want my office to be better than his. I want my office to be better than his. So we like did $1 million office.
Holy cow.
I had wood carvers, and we were doing they did the scales of justice, and it was all carved out of wood and
That's
everything.
awesome.
Yeah, it was just a crazy, crazy thing.
What was the wood choice in the 90s, by the way? Like
Cherry.
walnut's so hot today. It was cherry back then.
Cherry was
There you go.
across the board.
Everybody wanted cherry.
wanted cherry.
I did a bunch of cherry floors in the 90s in the production builder homes I was building.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But I sure was not doing that kind of cool stuff with cherry.
And
That's
so he
pretty neat.
came to me and he said, hey, look, I'm getting ready to build a house here in Highland Park. Can you build a house? I went, absolutely.
Of course I can.
Of course I can. Yeah, exactly. Well, I was a master.
Spoken like a true entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, being a master carpenter, I'd been around enough jobs. I knew plumbing pretty well. I knew electrical very well. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Sure I can.
And yeah, that was the first house. I did 24,000 feet and
my.
$17 million.
Your first house
My
out of the
first house.
90s.
Yeah.
If you don't
And
know Highland Park, by the way, this is the like Richie Rich neighborhood of Dallas, which is already a rich town. It's the
not only
nicest
that,
of the
but-
nice.
Yeah, not only that though, but they're like their building code is stronger than anybody's I've ever seen. I mean,
to this day still.
Yeah, I mean like, everything's in conduit.
Yeah,
you know, you're not allowed to have any kind of
no bare Romex
anywhere.
Yeah.
So it was challenging, but you know, I learned a lot. I worked with some stone carvers and whatnot, and learned all the stone and masonry. And I was just really lucky in the fact that I had some really good subcontractors that kind of carried me through it and brought me along and showed me pointers. You know, this might be better if we did that.
That's so awesome.
And so
now, were you in your 20s at the time, or were you older at this point?
Yeah, okay. It was just early 20s.
So you built your very first house for a paying client in your early 20s on your own. Were you smart enough to incorporate as a builder at that time, or were you still running it through your cabinet shop?
Oh no, I was a building company.
Okay.
Yeah. So we set up just like
Brian.
that. I did learn. I had a good attorney. He said everything's got to be separated.
Smart.
So yeah.
Smart.
But then I fell in with a really good couple of clients, and you know, after that it was just word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth.
They knew you were high integrity and you work hard.
Yeah.
And you were honest.
And I was on the job all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and that, like we said, that was back before you had a lot of project managers and stuff. You know, I had a couple of guys that would just come and they were basically punch-out carpenters. And they'd do whatever I needed them to do, and I took good care of them, and they'd watch the job if I had to go somewhere, but I just took them on one at a time. We didn't do like we do now, where we'll take up to 6.
Yeah. I'm curious what the difference was in in-house labor versus subcontractor from that was 80s or 90s at
80s,
this point?
yeah. There was 80s. A lot. There was, luckily, I had kept my own cabinet company, but a lot of guys were building their own cabinets on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real big thing up there. Everybody
common.
building, you know, on the site boxes, which I always was like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah, when we have a full shop back there, they can do it better.
Yeah, and tighter and, you know, made to last.
Yeah.
And, you know, face framing and things like that. Even back then in the early 80s, a lot of guys were face nailing their face frames, and it was just really not the level of sophistication that we have nowadays.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what was your first big, after that, that was obviously a giant milestone, you know, building this giant house in Highland Park.
It's still up there, by the way. I drove by there, I guess it was about a half a year ago. I was up in Dallas, and I went,
cool.
I got to go by there.
Still looks good?
Still looks good.
That's fantastic.
It's pretty easy when it's all masonry, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because that's what has to be up there. But
that helps. What was the next big milestone in your career as a builder after that, would you say?
I would say coming here to Austin. You know, I had been coming to Austin for vacations because I just loved Austin. I like the vibe.
Which, by the way, if you're not from Texas, they're about 3 hours-ish away.
Yeah.
And I think...
Unless you drive like me, it's about 2.5.
And when Brian was coming from Dallas to Austin was a very different town than it is today.
Oh, yeah. I used to drive across Mansfield Dam.
Yeah, I mean, we were a sleepy town. Yeah. We were the keep
360
Austin
wasn't
weird
finished.
town.
360 wasn't even complete yet. They hadn't blown through the mountain where the bridge is.
I mean, it really wasn't until Michael Dell, I kind of credit him with his startup business in the 90s that we started becoming an economic powerhouse and people started moving here. We were sleepy government town with UT, and that's about it. With some good barbecue and some good restaurants here and there. People like to visit. But by no means were tech companies based here. Was there an economic engine here? All those kinds of things that we have today.
And we didn't have a ton of money coming in to this town.
Not at all. So what year did you move to Austin then, Brian?
I moved to Austin in 97.
Okay. You've been here a while.
Yeah.
You've been here a while. But in the scheme of things, only I moved here in 05. So I just hit my 20th. So you're just shy of 30 years here in Austin, basically.
Yeah.
Boy, you've seen some big changes in Austin, Texas in 30 years.
Well, I brought foam to Austin in 97.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You were the first one to do some spray foam?
Yeah, I had to get with Carl Muth from City of Austin. We had to go through all the UL and, you know, I had to show them all the, you know. And foam is really transformed over the years, as you know.
For sure.
I mean, it was urethane based. Now it's all soy based. Now there's no VOCs and a lot of the foam you can spray. So
there's some good products.
There's some really great products out. But you know, to me it was the fact that it just made sense to have something that was much more airtight. It wasn't going to sag. You know, no infill going to fall down and settle out. I just saw the value in it. And so that was I would say that was a milestone for me too, is getting it passed, and then watching how fast all the other builders said, well, we're going to use foam.
Yeah, we should do that too.
Yeah, we should do that too, because it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I would say that in today's day and age, there's so many spray foam contractors that most likely you can do spray foam for the price of fiberglass from 10, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah,
because
and
there's
as
a
well,
lot of competition.
And you know as well as I do, Owens Corning sat there and said their R values are 13, and then they proved that they're 6.
Right.
So it's like, come on, guys, this is not what you said it was.
Yeah, well, those guys were fighting the foam industry big time for all those years, and now they've joined them, and they bought Natural Polymers, which is one of my favorite products out there. So Owens Corning actually owns Natural Polymers, which is a really top-notch closed cell spray foam that we use in all our houses today.
I'd like to know more about it.
It's a good one. Yeah.
We were just looking at that new Carlisle Thin Slate, or Thin Solite, I guess.
I don't know that one. What is that?
It's a new polyiso.
Okay.
But they're getting an R value of 7 in the 1 inch versus the 6.
That's right. It's 10% bigger. I saw that at the International Roof Expo recently.
Yeah, it's pretty
And I was
neat.
trying to figure out the secret sauce on that. That's pretty cool that they're able to increase that R value.
Yeah, I would have to say it's probably just more air pockets in there.
Probably.
Who knows?
Yeah. So then back to your transition to Austin.
That was a hard transition, though.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if you could walk us through the transition from Dallas to Austin, and also I'm in a new market now. How do I find people for clients, whether it was your cabinet business or your custom home business?
The thing that the hardest part of moving to Austin, I think, was getting a new sub base. Mm-hmm. That was very difficult. I ended up bringing several of my subs from Dallas.
Is that right?
Yeah, they traveled down here. They're like, yeah, we'll go to Austin.
That's awesome.
Which I was lucky. A very, very good framing contractor that came down with me, and obviously frame is where it starts.
Oh yeah, big time.
And I got in to know a big, Dickie Tillman. He did a concrete on this first house that I did, and it was very complicated foundation because it was all on alluvial deposits on Lake Austin. 2-foot piers, 27 feet down, and hitting water at like 20 feet.
Jeez, wow.
So we're sleeving them, pouring them, dropping the cage, and so it was a lot.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But that house, was a very big house, 16,000 feet, 16,500 some feet, and the biggest part, like I said, was getting subcontractors and getting in with subcontractors and getting to know them, getting to know me getting to know them. And that was a battle because, obviously you don't pick the best one every time.
Yeah, I had to sort through a couple when I moved here as well.
Yeah.
I got a couple winners, but then I had a couple losers as
Well,
well.
I think my loser to winner ratio is more toward the losers than to the winners. But, the word gets out that what you're doing, and then they start coming to you, the really good people that were there. I got an opportunity to meet Alan Valiant. Once I met him, it was like, okay, I've got the framing thing down to a science. So.
This is an Austin legend, by the way, Alan Valiant. Been around a long time. He's probably your age or a little older.
Oh, he's 70, about 72.
Okay, so he's got 10 years on you,
too. He's a dear friend. I told him the other day he's completely retired now.
I didn't know that.
I said, you can't retire. I've got a really complicated one coming out, and you're the only person I know that can lay it out.
At least come out for the layout.
Yeah, the man has forgotten more about layout than most people will ever know in their life.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
He's done a lot of Mira Rivera projects where he lays out some really intricate, how Mira Rivera is. Their stuff is super complicated.
Very difficult. Yes.
And he just breezes through it, and you look at it and you go, how did you figure all that out? Curve this way, curve that way, curve up here, and then it all has to line up. You're going,
amazing.
Yeah,
Wisdom
truly.
Over the years is really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Always a little bit sad when we lose a tradesman like that to retirement. When I moved here, I found through Mark Clearman was the mason I kind of stumbled upon. Fabulous masonry company, and they had this older mason on the crew, and I did my first couple of houses in brick here. They were spec houses. I loved brick, and I forget the guy's name. I think it was like Jimmy. And Jimmy was like 65 when I met him, and I'm like, a spanking 31-year-old when I moved here or something, or 32. And I just couldn't believe how good he was. And on house 3 or 4, I was like, Mark, where's Jimmy? Like, I'm expecting him. He's like, oh, he retired. I was like, what?
Oh yeah, those
I've
are
lost Jimmy already. I only got to do 2 or 3 houses with him, and he was gone. He retired.
There was a metal guy like that. His name was Fred Stead, and he worked for Nationwide Slate and Metal. And this guy was so intelligent. He created his own machines to make metal products.
Oh my gosh.
He had a spun metal machine.
That's so awesome.
But I mean, he had things he put over tarps over them, and people were in the shop, they couldn't even look at it.
Don't look at this.
Because, but you know, guys like that, the legends, you know, you miss them for sure. And this is where we get back to the thing we always talk about. This is why we need those people to teach.
Yeah. That's right.
Alan has said, he goes, yeah, if there's a trade school and we had something, he goes, I would definitely go and teach people how to do things.
You and I have talked about that a bunch over the years. I wish I had the bandwidth or the cash to do that at this moment. I don't, but someday I will.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the thing for you and I, though, would be joining forces with all the people that we know that do want to have licensing.
Yes.
And present our case to Taylor at the HBA and getting with the TAB and trying to get this ball moving.
So let's back up a second for the non-Texans that are listening. In Texas, in about 2007 or 8, I forget what year it was, the Texas legislature said, hey, we're going to abolish the regulations for builders to have a license. And
that wasn't even really a license. That was just a.
It was like almost like a credit check. Like they would check to see if you had a criminal history, basically, and that was about it.
Yeah, and it had no horsepower, because if somebody did anything wrong, it wasn't like they were going to lose their license or anything like that. It was just they'd get a complaint at the board, but the board had no horsepower.
Yeah. So unlike states like Massachusetts or California or a bunch of other states where you actually have to sit for a test, know some things, have a good understanding of what code is.
Yeah, I'm licensed in California and Florida, and I'll tell you, both of those tests are very difficult.
Legit. Yeah.
The Florida one is because of hurricanes.
Yeah, you got to know, you got to understand it.
You got to know all the stresses, you know, hydroflow and everything else. They want you to know all of it.
That's a good thing. I think that's excellent for the industry. But in Texas, on the other hand, as long as you have the dollars to pay for a permit, any Joe Blow can go in and pull a permit to
chuck in a truck, one right after another.
Yeah. It's pretty sad. It's a pretty sad state of affairs here.
Well, that's why our GL is so high, our workman's comp is so high, our builder's risk is so high. Everything here is so elevated.
Yeah.
People can't believe that we're making, you know, and I don't know about you, but we see our percentages of profit. You know, we charge a certain one, but by the end of the day, if you're making 4% or 5%, really walking with it, boy, you've pulled off a miracle.
Yeah,
because
that's for sure.
All these, you know, this overhead, that overhead, it's really
expensive. Crazy how expensive those are. I mean, my general liability for my building company is over 6 figures a year.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
It's super high.
Yeah, and we had, you know, and then when you do projects that are in the, you know, like the one we did with 25 million, you up all that, and when you go to cancel it, they make it really hard for you to even bring that back.
Yeah,
it's like, come on.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It is.
It's really bad. So on that front of finding new subs and moving to Texas, I want to spend a minute on that because I think that can be really valuable to our builder audience. Give us, now that you're older, right, and you've gone through that, what are some things that you think still work today in terms of finding those really good subcontractors in that new town, Austin, that you moved to all those years ago?
References from other builders you respect.
There you go.
And seeing their work.
Yeah.
You can tell immediately you walk on a job. I mean, you've got great framers. You know, we talk to the same guy. Yeah, but you walk on and you look at the frame, or you sit there and you go and you look at the concrete forms and the way things are formed, braced, the way they tie steel. You know, you know very quickly if this is somebody that you can work with.
Yeah, who's doing it right.
Yeah, and do they understand drops and all the changes, or, you know, are their embeds laid out right?
Yeah.
You know, you ask the other builder, if they hit all their embeds, everything work out correctly for you, and of course, electricians are licensed, plumbers are licensed, so if they do something wrong, you can always report them.
Right, good point.
Your HVAC contractor, they're licensed.
Yeah.
So the only one that's not licensed is the builder.
Yeah, and the framer and the foundation guy, right?
Yeah,
Only
yeah,
these giant trades that mean so much.
Yeah. Well, your engineer falls into the purvey of watching your frame and your concrete, but
I wonder if actually, I have not used this trick, but I wonder if an engineer would be a good one to ask about framing, because they've gone in and done a frame check to verify that it was built to their engineering plans. I wonder if that would be a good reference for finding a good frame carpenter as well.
I would say that it would be, absolutely. And when you drive around, the other thing too is going around to areas where you know that they're doing prominent work,
Yep.
Or work of your same stature.
Right, that's huge.
That is a huge thing, because then you can meet the people a lot of times, and you get to see their work and
For sure.
pick their brain about what they know, what technology you're using. I had a discussion the other day about what are you using for behind your tile.
Yeah.
You do many shows about that.
Yeah.
Different waterproofing membranes and stuff. And
A lot of options today that there weren't 20 years ago.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've had to go back and for a very good client and redo something because I didn't feel like we used the best product, and we had a outdoor tile porch. And, back then Red Guard was like the only thing that was
That was
available.
the only option. Yeah.
And it failed.
Wow.
And so you make it right when you have a client like that, especially one that sits there and says, hey, I want you to do another project for me. I want you to do another project for me.
You got to make it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing you mentioned that I want to spend a minute on is you mentioned Taylor at the HBA. She's our local, what's her title? President?
President of HBA.
President of the Austin chapter of the
Home Builders Association.
National Association, NAHB, National Association.
Home Builders Association.
That's it, sorry. Home Builder Association, HBA. When I first moved here in 2005, I don't think I met you at the HBA necessarily. I think we met a few years later.
We met a few years later.
But I met some guys like Ray Tonjes, Tim Hill, who's now my business partner.
Yep. I've known Ray for 27 years. Yeah.
I mean, Ray's a legend. Such a good dude.
Yeah,
And
he's a super nice guy.
a lot of the subs that I use today are ones that, like, for instance, my roofer came from Ray. I had a problem with a flat roof I did. It was a massive leaker where they put all of the scuppers in wrong, basically. They used the cocked scupper. It was my first flat roof. I didn't know what I was doing. He didn't know what he was doing. And I called Ray. I was like, Ray, I got this house that's leaking like a sieve, and I'm not sure what the problem is. Can you recommend a roofer? He's like, call Mundo at Kid Roofing at the time, not even DR Kid, or maybe it was DR Kid.
Yeah.
And, Mundo comes out, and he's looking around. He's like, I don't know. I think you got some problems here. You got to pull this and this out, and then let's look at, call me back and let's look at it. So we pull a few things off, and Mundo comes out and was like, well, see all that rotted OSB that got back there? That's because these scuppers were done wrong.
Yeah.
And I ended up I had to pay to rip the whole roof off this house and redo it with Mundo. But then I've used Mundo on every job since. I'm shocked he hasn't retired yet. He's actually probably in his 70s at this point.
Yeah.
But that was a direct correlation to Ray Tonjes being an older builder that I knew in town who was wise and doing good work. And when I had a problem, I had a relationship with him because I met him at the HBA and was able to call him and go, Ray, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I got a massive leaking house. Can you advise me on what to do? And man, those relationships mean so much. And you've helped me over the years. Hopefully I've helped you at least once
many times. That's why I love to, if I see the phone ring, and I'm going to answer it, because I love these correspondence, and I like the fact that we can pick each other's brains and say,
Super
hey,
helpful.
Does this work when you do this? Or, like we talked about that one thing one time. If you insulate these porch roofs, how do we have to do that? You know what I mean?
Or we were talking about Polyguard's Alumaflash that they've rebranded now to UV240, but you gave me the name of a subcontractor that's installing it for you.
Yeah.
That's the kind of friendship that you and I have that's been so beneficial to both of us over the years. And the other thing that I always say, and I think this Origin series is a little bit of this, there's something therapeutic about a coffee, a lunch, a dinner, even a podcast with a builder friend who totally gets the stress. You know, you're telling me about this house you're building in Dallas that was your first one. And I'm thinking back to my first house 20 years ago that I did on my own and how stressful it was. I always have said that there's no one else in my life that understands my stresses in my life than another builder.
Yeah, my wife would 100% agree, because she'll look at me and she goes, "I can tell you're really stressed about something," and you are. I mean,
you carry it internally.
Yeah, you if you don't, you're not a good builder.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
I think it's true.
I always look at it. Beer and bourbon are the two things that make a great builder. You know, because at the end of the day, you're going to need one or the other, or maybe both, depending on the day.
Depending on the day. That's hilarious.
Because clients don't. Well, a client is a great thing as long as they're open to listen to intelligent conversation.
Yeah.
You're always going to get that one or two client that is always going to have a spur up their butt all the time, no matter what. They're just, you're not going fast enough, or this is costing more than I wanted it to cost, you know. But hold your guns, stick with what you know, you'll stay out of the court system.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, this is the thing that I'm getting into now, is fixing everybody else's mistakes, and it costs a ton of money.
So much money. So much money. With that, I want to fast forward on this origin series a little bit to today. You know, we've talked a little bit about your past, but I think it'd be interesting for us to dig in a little bit, because I think you're set up very different than a lot of builders. Like, I don't see you as having multiple project managers and you're stuck in the office all day. You really are very hands-on. I think you also are very unique in that you've got a couple of architects that always call you when they've got a cool project. In particular, one that we were talking about, I guess it's okay to say his name, Jim LaRue.
Yeah.
You know, when Jim's got a cool project, he's calling Brian
to
see if you're available for that, or if this is one that's you know, in your schedule. And I think one of the reasons why is because you are such a hands-on, you know the intimate details of your projects, and you develop such a tight relationship with your clients. Will you walk us through how that came about, your system versus some of the other guys in town that have a lead dog in the office, but they've got nothing but project managers on the job site?
Well, we do have project managers, but I just feel like if you don't visit your project manager every day and you're not walking the project, you're setting yourself up and your project manager for failure. I think it's just really important that there's more than one set of eyes looking at something.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Because everybody misses something.
That's right.
And even at the end of the deal, there'll be something where I go, I wish we'd have done that differently.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I'm not embarrassed to say it. I mean, I'm not going to miss a waterproofing detail.
Right.
You know?
But the way that trim came together,
that would have been much better.
Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah, that stuff in particular.
Yeah.
You know, why is the base so much higher up on the cabinet? That doesn't look good. We should have done something different there.
Right.
Talk to the designer, what have you. But you know, that's I'm kind of lucky in the fact that I developed a relationship with Jim when I first moved here.
This is the architect we're talking about, by the way.
And but after that, I've also become friends with all these other architects because of knowing Jim, and then he speaks highly of me, and then they find out, and I've worked with Charles Travis, you know, and I've worked...
Another legend.
Yeah, and so you work with these people, you figure out what their key things are that they want to see on all their projects.
Yeah.
And so everybody's got their own little I, the way they want it dotted, the T, the way they want it crossed. So you just make sure you hit those, and the work will keep coming.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Advertising, I think, in our market is kind of a waste of time.
I totally agree.
No one's going to say, "Oh, that's a cool brochure. We should use him."
What a cool website.
Yeah, what a cool website. I mean, the website helps in the fact that they can see work without having to travel to all your jobs and can get into places where you can't always get them in. But even that doesn't speak to the service.
That's right.
I do like being hands-on, and I do like getting out there with my guys. Not as much anymore sometimes, just because driving drives me insane, and it's lots and lots of driving.
Yeah, there's lots of driving out there, for sure.
But again, our industry has changed too in this last couple of years. I have not seen Austin slow down like it has. And like we were saying earlier, it takes a long time to get one of these projects out of the ground.
Yeah, it does.
And if it's not queued up, you know, and I think young builders would really do well to understand that it takes a long time for the interior designers to come up with everything, the architect to work it out, the engineer to get everything, and you get to bid it, and then you go through the whole bid process, and then clients sometimes go, oh wow, that's more than I wanted to spend.
That's not what I was expecting.
And then you got to back up and maybe do a little VE, or maybe they read a draw or redesign. So you could be a year easy before you're touching anything on the ground. Yeah, and so if you're carrying a crew, like all of us do, we carry quite a staff, where's that money coming from?
Yeah, you gotta diversify. And I think you and I have done a good job of that over the years. I know the recession taught me that. Like, don't be afraid to do a remodel or do something that's not your standard, you know, down the fairway new construction. You know, during the recession, I actually grew from doing remodels, even though I had zero new construction to do.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've always never turned down a remodel.
Well, I was going to say, never turned down a remodel. I had a remodel that came to me and it ended up being a $4.5 million job.
There you go.
Because I had no idea what the guy wanted, but he came in and he says, I want all this, and I want to redo all of this. And you're going, okay.
Yeah, and usually you can charge more for a remodel than a new construction as well. And there's less competition.
And he was wonderful in the fact that he even said, he goes, I don't care what it costs.
Yeah.
I just want it done right, and I want all of this.
Man, that's such a good client.
Yeah, I was just right. I'm like,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Let's make this happen
for you.
And
I am your man.
Yeah, and it turned out to be in a beautiful, beautiful place. It's right on the lake.
That's
and
awesome.
So yeah, and you know, the other thing we were talking about earlier, I might have said it, but service. You know, he calls me anytime he wants. You know, he really calls me anytime he wants.
Does he really?
Yeah, like
you talked to this guy on Sunday night at 9 p.m.
10:30 Sunday night. You know, it's like, you know, you'll answer the phone for this guy, but
that's awesome.
it's like, don't you sleep? You know.
No, actually not.
But
that's why he's done so well.
Exactly. He is one of those kind of guys. You know, he's up all the time. But we get emails 1:30, 1:45 in the morning, and it's like you're going, you know.
That's so funny.
But at the same time, he knows that we're going to take care of it. And so first thing in the morning, I'm on the phone with whoever it is they need to get out there and touch this up or do whatever it is. And he, you know, he appreciates that.
Yeah, he trusts you.
Yeah.
Because you are a man of your word. And there's only so many of those people in his life, so when he finds one, he holds on to one.
Yeah, and that's also, it's a great way to build your business. It's also a way you can lose your business.
Yeah.
Not servicing your client after the sale.
That's true.
Or, you know, we have a thing we call concierge service. So if they call us and say, hey, look, we're traveling, I know we have an HVAC appointment, we just tell them not a problem. The project manager that built the project will go over there, let the people in.
That's awesome.
Wait till they're done, take care of it. Now, if it's a maintenance thing, obviously we send them the invoice for the maintenance.
Yep.
But if it's a warranty thing or something like that, we just get in, get it done, and get out.
That's awesome.
You know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the clients really appreciate that.
Yeah, they do.
We just got a remodel in Terrytown because we built this house 22 years ago out in Dripping Springs, and it's for a family, and this is just part of the family. And they said, well, we couldn't have thought of anybody else. We should just went
Use
to
you. That's fantastic. From 22 years ago. How about that? That's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
love
it speaks volumes to me, you know, and I tell my guys all the time, I said, we only have one chance to do it right. And know what, you may think it's a petty little thing, but it might be a huge thing to them.
That's right.
So treat it as it's a huge thing.
Man, we got to clip that for a you know, Instagram clip. That was such a great quote, Brian. I'm going to make sure we tag that for later. That's the highlight of the podcast right there.
Oh, thanks.
We should probably wrap it up, Brian. I try to keep these podcasts under 45 minutes, but
absolutely.
I can't thank you enough for your friendship, for your leadership in our industry. You're a giant of a man, and not just in your stature, although he does look like my dad because he's about 5 inches taller than me, and I consider myself tall.
Yeah, 6'6" carries a lot of extra problems.
You also have another 100 pounds of muscle that I don't have too, Brad. Let's put it that way. I bet you were a pretty ferocious football player back in the day.
I enjoyed it.
I
enjoyed it a
only
lot.
imagine.
It was a way to take out stress without having to drink.
There you go. Brian, tell us your Instagram handle, because is it Brian Long Custom Homes?
It's Big B Long ATX.
Big B Long ATX.
Yeah.
Okay, follow Brian on Instagram. He's doing really cool projects. Always does best in class when it comes to product and install. Always love getting out to his job sites. And speaking of which, we got a couple jobs coming up that we're planning to shoot some videos on. And I want to make mention of something you said earlier that's sort of unrelated to this. Brian told me about a product application that I never heard of, and I want to make sure we talk about this just for 1 minute. We were talking about decks, and we were talking about exterior woods and some stuff. Brian mentioned a deck framing system that I'd never heard of. Give us the quick 411 what we were talking about.
It's a metal clip that clips onto a C-channel.
No, I'm talking about the Akoya.
Oh, the Akoya.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can buy dimensional Akoya. There's several places in Dallas that sell dimensional Akoya.
So if you don't know, Akoya is this product that's out of like Norway or something originally. I don't know where they are today, but Delta Millworks sells it. I've only ever used it for siding, and it's fabulous for a wood siding. But Brian's actually using it in 2x and 4x dimensional lumber sections to do what?
Decks.
To frame a deck with.
To frame decks.
How about that?
But we've also used it, like for outriggers and things like that.
There you go.
Because you don't want them to rot.
Yeah.
And so Akoya's, 50 years in a situation like that.
It's an incredible product.
It is, and I don't understand why, all they're doing is removing the lignin and the sugar, and so many of these people, it's caustic. They get vinegar. That's what comes out of that process is vinegar. So it's like, it's a really...
That seems like a very benign
very
treatment to me. And I've had a couple carpenters over the years that reacted very viscerally to the dust from Ipe. You remember when we were so hot on Ipe in the 2000s here that everybody wanted an Ipe
It's
deck?
very similar to rosewood poisoning.
There you go.
It's the dust. It's very toxic.
Something about that dust, man.
It is toxic.
I had two of my best carpenters that were like, man, I'm sorry, I can't work on that deck project or whatever. So this Akoya is a really fascinating product. It's been around a while. It's not new product by
No,
any
not
means.
at all.
But I've never heard of anybody using it in 2x situations. So when you get a deck project that you're doing with that, will you call me so we can shoot a video out there?
Absolutely.
That would be really, really
all
fun.
stainless fasteners. It just, it's natural, and off you go.
I mean, it would last
hidden
for
clips and
decades and decades.
Yeah, without having to do all the taping and the waterproofing and all that. It's that you put your sealers on there and you're done.
It's a legit product.
It's really a great product.
That's cool. Brian, you're such a gem, dude. I really appreciate it. Go check out Brian on Instagram. If you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. We've got new podcasts every Friday. We're on all the major listening platforms. But if you want to see Brian's handsome face and me talking here in the studio, we got 3 cameras set up. We got a full setup here. You can go watch it on thebuildshow.com. We've got a tab for podcasts, and we have like 4 or 5 different podcasts. So we're publishing all this fantastic wisdom from guys like Brian Long for free on the website. All you've got is a 15-second commercial to watch.
Well, don't forget about you, Matt. You got a lot of information as well.
Well, I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been super fun to hang out with you. Guys, follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show podcast.